Chestnut class, and welcome back to day 2 of this week's learning journey. Now we've been thinking about the question, how have I faced the challenge of home learning? And I am really proud of each and every one of you and the real thought and consideration that you've put into Monday's work. I was really impressed with how you were justifying your thinking and how you were really trying to prepare yourself as best as you can for Friday's conversation with me. And I could tell that lots of you have put a lot of effort into going back to your portfolios and really thinking carefully about the examples that you were given. Now, if you're suddenly realising that you haven't done Monday's video, and you're thinking, goodness me, Miss Dye, what are you talking about? It's really important that you go back to your portfolio now and you find Monday's video and you do that first. Okay, normally I'd say don't worry, you can catch up today, but actually today's video will make no sense to you if you didn't do Monday's. Okay, so pause the video now if that's you and go and find Monday and then come back when you're ready. Okay, now hopefully then you are here because you're ready for the second part of our learning journey. And you'll notice that it says day 2 morning here. And that's because you've got a morning activity to do today and then an afternoon activity to complete later today. And as I said to lots of you in our Zoom tutorials, the more you prepare, the more you use these videos, the more confident you're going to feel on Friday when we have our conversation, and the easier it's going to be for you to talk to me. Okay, you'll actually be able to lead that conversation and I won't have to say too much or ask you too much, particularly because you're in year 6, that's what you should be aiming for. Okay, let's have a quick recap then of where we're up to. Our inquiry question is then, how have I faced the challenge of home learning? And you'll remember that on Friday we're going to have a conference, so we're going to meet together on Zoom and we're going to share work that you're proud of and talk about why you're proud of it. We're going to talk about some challenges that you've faced and how you've overcome them. And we're going to share a target that you've set yourself for next half term. Now on Monday, you created a mind map. And if you could pause the video now, year 6, and open up at that mind map in your book and have that in front of you so that you can look back over it now, please. Okay, so this mind map then was about your proudest achievements. And you pick key things that you're proud of. So for example, you might have picked a subject that you've been particularly proud of. For example, reading or maths. You might have picked a piece of work that you were particularly proud of. Or you might have thought about a target that you set yourself that you were proud of achieving. And then you were thinking, okay, what skills have I used? Have I had to be really resilient? Have I used some independence skills? Have I shown determination or bravery? And you listed those second of all. Once you'd listed the key things that you were proud of, you then unpicked them further. And you were trying to justify and explain why you were proud of these things. It was almost like you were trying to persuade me. So for example, if we have a look at independence, you gave me an example of something that you've done that shows your independence. So I've created a space where I can work quietly. That's what it looks like to you. I gathered all the equipment I need for learning and I organised this space. Okay, so you're justifying and explaining how you've shown independence. Then you've thought about the impact. So what does this mean for my learning? This meant I could focus on my learning without being disturbed. I could work independently on my own. Okay, let's have another look at another example. So independence, okay, how have I shown that at home? What does that look like? The first thing I do each morning is check Dojo and decide how I'm best going to use my time that day. I created a timetable or a to-do list to help me. And then what's the impact of this? How does that help your learning? This meant I could keep a track of my progress that day and help me to not feel overwhelmed. Okay, Year 6, have a little look at your mind map now. Have you justified and explained why these are your proudest moments or the skills that you're most proud of? And if you haven't, you're going to need to pause the video now and add in some extra detail, because the more thought you put into this mind map, the easier the next part, your written reflection, is going to be. Now, I did ask a few people to tell me more, and I left some questions for people on Class Dojo. So if that's you, please also pause the video now and use those questions to add to your page in your book. Okay, then when you're ready and you're happy that this is the very best mind map it could be, and you've justified and explained everything, come back to this video. Okay, so our focus today then is a written reflection. We're going to try and answer this question. We're going to begin by getting our page ready. So you are going to need a brand new page for this Year 6, okay, because I'm not going to ask you to write a huge amount today. What I am going to ask you to do is edit and improve what you write, and then to write it out neatly underneath. So you're going to need enough space to do that editing and improving, and then to write it up neatly. So at the top of your clean page, you're going to write today's date, and then underline it with your red pen or a different colour pen and a ruler. And then you're going to need to put this question into your book. Reflection, : what are my proudest achievements in my learning during lockdown? And when you copy that question into your book, please copy it really carefully, check the spellings are accurate and the punctuation's correct, and that your handwriting is joined. So if you pause the video now, Year 6, and if you do that, then come back when you're ready. Okay, so hopefully you're ready to begin writing. Your page looks like mine at the moment, just without the green box. Now, if we were in school, I'd be saying to you, have a go at answering this question. Be brave, tell yourself you can do it, so that shows some resilience and gives yourself a starting point. And that's what you're going to have a go at doing at home today, because lots of you have been telling me that you've been brave and resilient, so it's your chance to show that skill again. Now, you're going to choose one thing from your mind map, so let's go back to the mind map. You're going to choose one thing to write about today. And I suggest you choose something that's got lots of detail to it. So if I look at mine, it wouldn't be very good, it wouldn't be very helpful if I chose resilience, because I haven't got much to write about. But actually, I've got quite a lot about independence, and I've got some ideas about bravery, but not as many. So I'm going to write about independence. Okay, so when you've chosen your one thing, you're going to try and put your mind map ideas into some sentences that explain what your proudest achievements are. Okay, give it a go so that you've got a starting point, Year 6, and that's all it is, a starting point. It doesn't have to be perfect, hasn't got to be amazing at this point, because that's what editing and improving is all about. So if you pause the video now and then come back when you've had a go. Well done, Year 6. I'm really proud of you for showing some resilience and giving that a go. And you might have written something a little bit like me. And I wrote this really quickly, so I know it's not my best sentence, but I was really trying to be brave and resilient and give this a go. So I'm writing about independence. I am proud of how independently I have worked this half term because I haven't given up and I've tried my best. So now we want to think about how can I improve that sentence. And I'm going to give you an example now that you can use to improve your own work at home. Now, in true Miss Dyer fashion, I have written quite a lot. I wouldn't expect everybody at home to write this much. Some of you will be able to, however, and I know some of you will aim for this. Okay, but don't let it put you off. I'm not expecting everybody to write this much. And as we go through, I know there are mistakes in here, but I've written it quickly this morning. and I can work on the mistakes later. Okay, so how have I improved my first sentence? Let's have a look. After thinking about all my learning this half term. So in the question, it says I'm thinking about my learning during lockdown. So I've started my sentence with that. After thinking about all my learning this half term, I have thought that I've achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of. Okay, including, so this is where I'm adding the detail now, including improving my independence. So that's what I did. Now I'm going to say what it was like before lockdown. So at school, before lockdown, I would rely on adults to help me with my learning and wouldn't be able to give things a go. So I've said what I've improved, and now I'm going to explain how I've done that. So I thought about what it was like before lockdown, and I'm going to say what it's like now, how it's changed. So now I'm starting to work more independently and have the confidence to give things a go by myself. I have created a space at home where I can learn without distraction, and that has all of my learning equipment. The first thing I do every morning is check Class Dojo and think about how I'm going to use my time that day. I created a timetable to help me. This meant I could keep a track of my progress and has helped me to not feel overwhelmed. I finish my work in the morning and then have the afternoons to do things that I enjoy. It's my reward for working hard. Okay, let's unpick a little bit then about what I've done here so that you can have a go at doing this in a moment. And in fact, I'm going to make a few notes up here so that we can follow along together. So I started by thinking about the time period that I'm writing about. So I'm thinking about my learning this half term. So after thinking about all my learning this half term, I have thought that I have achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of, including my independence. So I've said what I am proud of, first of all. Okay, this is note form year 6, so it's only going to make sense to us as we go through, okay, because it's notes. And then I've said what it was like before lockdown. Okay, so at school, before lockdown, I would rely on the adults to help me with my learning and I wouldn't be able to give things a go. Then I'm going to say what it's like now, so how it's changed. Now I'm starting to work more independently and I have the confidence to give things a go myself. And now I'm going to give an example of my independence. I've created a space at home where I can learn without distraction and that has all of my learning equipment. The first thing I do every morning is check Class Dojo and think about how I'm going to use my time that day. I've created a timetable to help me. So I've got my example that I've explained. And now I'm going to talk about the impact, so how it has helped. Okay, this meant I could keep a track of my progress and has helped me to not feel overwhelmed. I finish my work in the morning and then I have the afternoons to do things that I enjoy. It's my reward for working hard. So if you use these notes year 6 and you write in this order or a similar order, then you can be certain that you have improved your writing. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is look over your writing and just think to yourself, does it tell the reader the journey you've been on? So does it say what you're proud of? Does it tell me what it was like before lockdown? What it's like now? Have you told me or given me an example and explained your example? And have you told me how it's helped? Okay, now I'm going to ask you now, year 6, just to pause the video and just have a think to yourself and to spend some time editing. And normally at school this would take probably about 20 minutes, half an hour, even a little bit longer for some of us. So if you look at your work and you only spend 5 minutes, you know you haven't spent long enough on this part. Okay, so don't be shy, year 6. Continue all that thoughtful, fantastic work you were doing yesterday. And then when you've done that, come back to the video and we're going to do one more thing together. Okay, now I'm going to change screens. I'm going to come over to this screen. It's the same piece of writing, Year 6. It's just easier if I use this piece of software to work with you. Now what we're going to do now that you've edited and improved your paragraph or your sentences, we're going to use cups to help us really focus now on the finer details of our paragraph. So we've got the structure. Okay, we were talking about the structure on here, weren't we? In these using these red notes to help us. Now we're going to the finer details of editing. So the C in cups stands for capital letters. Now when we're editing, we can often be wanting to rush through and do everything all at once, but cups helps us to really focus. So the only thing I'm going to worry about as I read through now is capital letters. Okay, I'm going to put everything else to one side for the moment. Oh look, I'm going to use my purple pen because that's what we would use at school. Now if you don't have a purple pen, don't worry, just use a different colour pen in your learning journey. So our first sentence needs a capital letter. After thinking about all my learning this half term, comma, I have thought that I've achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of, including improving my independence, full stop, so I need a capital letter here. At school, before lockdown, I on its own as a singular always needs a capital letter. I would rely on adults. Adults. Does that need a capital letter? No, it's not a proper noun, so I can change that to a lowercase. To help with my learning, I wouldn't be able to give things a go. Full stop, capital letter. Now I am starting to work more independently and have the confidence to give things a go by myself. Full stop. Oh look, here's another I. Did you have to look carefully, Year 6? I've created a space at home where I can learn without distraction and it has all of my learning equipment. Full stop, capital letter. First thing I do every morning is check. Now I'm going to give Class Dojo capital letters because I think that it's a proper noun. It's the name of a company. So Class Dojo, think about how I'm going to use my time that day. Full stop, capital letter. Full stop, capital letters. I'm scanning through now. Oh look, full stop, need another capital letter here. I finish my work in the morning, I have the afternoon to do things I enjoy. It's my reward for working hard. Okay, so I've checked all the way through and I'm satisfied that everything has a capital letter. So time to pause the video now, Year 6, and really check carefully for those capital letters. Okay, so now we're ready to think about you. And U stands for understanding. So I'm going to read this aloud now, or read it to somebody at home to check that it makes sense and they can understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, so after thinking about all my learning, and I'm not going to say all my learning, I'm just going to say my learning, because I think having all in there makes it just a bit of a mouthful. After thinking about my learning this half term, I have thought that I have achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I think, I'm going to change that to think. Okay, I think that I have achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of, including improving my independence. Okay, I'm happy that reads a little bit better. At school, before lockdown, I would rely on adults to help me with my learning and wouldn't be able to give things a go. Okay, I think that makes sense. Wouldn't be able to give things a go. I think I could probably, when I come to vocabulary, I can probably change that and improve it. Okay, now I'm starting to work more independently and have the confidence to give things a go by myself. No, I've repeated that, so I've definitely got to do something about it. So if I'm giving things a go, that's resilience. That's the grown-up word for it. So I'm going to think, which part could I change to resilience? I wouldn't be able to give thing. I wouldn't, now so I don't have the confidence to be more resilient. Here we go. That means giving things a go, not giving up. So I'm going to pop that in there. Now I'm starting to work more independently and have the confidence to be more resilient. I'm going to take out more independently as well, so I'm not repeating more. Now I'm starting to work independently and have the confidence to be more resilient. Brilliant. I've created a space at home where I can learn without distraction. I'm going to change that to distractions, because sometimes I think there's more than one distraction often at home. And that has all of my learning equipment. The first thing I do every morning is check Class Dojo and think about how I'm going to use my time that day. Okay, I'm actually going to change my sentence starter there, because I think if I start with every morning, that becomes a fronted adverbial, and I know starting sentences with the time of day is a really grown-up way of structuring my sentence. So I'm going to say every morning pop that in there like so. Every morning, that's got to be a lowercase. Every morning, the first thing I do, comma. Every morning, the first thing I do is check Class Dojo and think about how I'm going to use my time that day. I created a timetable to help me. This meant I could keep a track of my progress and I don't need to repeat has helped me. Keep a track of my progress and not feel overwhelmed. I finish my work in the morning and then have the afternoon to do things that I enjoy. It's my reward for working hard. Brilliant. So my work now makes sense. Okay, I'm going to go through and check my punctuation next. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do that year 6 because I think you're in year 6 now. You know what that means. I'm going to go through and check my spelling next. Okay, so I'm going to look through, really looking carefully at all of these words. I think that I've achieved a lot of things that should be. So I'm going to edit that. I'm proud of including improving my independence. That was a spelling, wasn't it? A few weeks ago, so that should be spelt correctly. Look, that should be would not. That needs a piece of punctuation. I wouldn't be able to give things a go. Now I'm starting to work more independent. That should be an E. And have the confidence to be more resilient. I've created space at home. Look, that's the wrong where I can learn without distractions, and that has all of my learning equipment. Every morning, the first thing I do is check Class Dojo, think about how I'm going to use. Look, I've changed tense here. ED is the past tense, so I need to edit that. I create a timetable to help me. This means I can keep a track of my progress and not feel overwhelmed. I finish my work in the morning, then have the afternoons to do things that I enjoy. It's my reward for working hard. Okay, so check my spellings. And now I'm going to think about the vocabulary. So I want this to sound really professional, really grown up. Instead of saying thinking, I'm going to say considering, reflecting. Because actually that's what we're doing. We're writing a reflection. So after reflecting on my learning this half term, I think that I've achieved a lot of things that I can be proud of, including improving my independence. At school before lockdown, I would rely on adults to help me with my learning and wouldn't be able to give things a go. Now I'm starting to work more independently and have the confidence to be more resilient. I have created a space at home where I can learn without distractions and that has all of my learning equipment. Every morning, the first thing I do is check Class Dojo and think about how I'm going to use my time that day. I created a timetable to help me. This means I could keep a track of my progress and not feel overwhelmed. I finish my work in the morning and then have the afternoons to do, rather than things, I'm going to say activities, that's more grown up. Do activities that I enjoy. It's my reward. That should be it is. There's a piece of punctuation there. It is my reward for working hard. Let me just. I'm not sure I want to say think about how I'm going to use I'm going to consider again. I think I can make that sound a little bit more grown up. Okay. So now I've completed cups. I've got an edited piece of work here. Now it's your turn, Year 6, to use cups to edit your work. And then when you've done that, you're going to need to write it up nice and neatly so that I can read it. So what you'll have on your page is the date, the question, your edited paragraph, and then underneath that edited paragraph, you'll have your final neat version written up. Okay, so that's your task for today. Okay, I'm going to put my cups example up here so you can pause the video if you need to and use that to help you. Okay, I'm really excited to read your reflections and to read more of the thoughtful comments and considerations that you're making. So good luck, Year 6. Be brave, okay, be really resilient and share your work with me on Class Dojo.